So it says a base jumper leaps from the top of El Capitan in Yosemite National Park. The height of the base jumper T seconds after jumping can be modeled by, and they gave us a function here. After how many seconds does the base jumper land on the ground? Round your answer to the nearest tenth if necessary. So, couple things. First of all, this is a quadratic equation. T represents the time in seconds after you jump, and H represents your height. So you're starting from on top of a mountain and you're jumping, so your height is going to decrease as you come down. And we're wanting to find out how long it takes until you land on the ground. So what would your height be when you land on the ground? It would be 0. So that means the function h of t is going to be equal to 0. So let me just write this down. So we have, I'm going to flip it around. So negative 24 t to the second plus 200 t plus 7,573 equals 0. Now we need to solve this for t to see how long it takes for that to happen, for the height to be 0. And again, this is a quadratic function, and so the way you solve quadratic functions is typically by factoring them. But these are some really big numbers, and I think that would be pretty tough for most people to do. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to use the quadratic formula. And so the quadratic formula, well, let me first, before I do that, let me write the standard form of a quadratic. So the standard form of a quadratic is ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay? So the coefficient of the t squared is our a, the coefficient of t is our b, and then the 7,573 is our c. Now, this is going to be a lot of work, just to warn you. Hopefully, whatever state you're in, they give you the quadratic formula on your reference sheet. If not, that's something you're going to have to memorize. And for my students, they used to have to memorize it, and then the state finally put it on the test, so you didn't have to. But here's what the quadratic formula is. It is x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. That's the quadratic formula. And so when you can't factor a quadratic, you can always use this formula. Even if you can factor it, the formula still works. It just usually is more work than factoring it. So we have our a, b, and c values here. We talked about that. Now we just simply plug them into the formula and do the math. So let's get started on that. So x equals negative b. So my b value is 200. So I'm going to put negative 200 plus or minus the square root of b squared. So b again is 200. So that's going to be 200 squared minus 4 times the a value, which is negative 24, times the c value, which is 7,573. And that's all divided by 2 times a. So that's 2 times the a value, which is negative 24. So now we're just going to follow PEMDAS. We want to simplify everything under the radical first. So let's work on that. So I'm going to just point out what I'm going to do here. I'm going to go ahead and figure out what 200 squared is, and then I'm going to multiply all of these three numbers together. Okay, that's going to be my first step here. And if you see me looking down, it's because I have a cheat sheet, because I don't know what these things come out to. And so here we go. So I have x equals negative 200 plus or minus. So 200 squared would be 40,000. And then I multiply those together. I have a minus and a negative, so this becomes plus, and that number is 727,008. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and multiply the two numbers together in the denominator. 2 times negative 24, and that gives me negative 48. So now we want to add the numbers together in the radical, the 40,000 and the 727,008. So we'll add those together. So now I have x equals, hopefully I don't run out of room here, negative 200 plus or minus. I add those together and I get 767,008. And then that's divided by negative 48. So let's go ahead and do the square root of 760,008. I am going to run out of room. We'll figure it out. So x equals, I told you this is a lot of work, negative 200. And this is something you just need to take your time and be careful because there's lots of opportunities here to make a mistake. So the square root of 767,008, that's going to be an irrational number. So it's a long decimal, and it is 875.7899. It keeps going on. I'm just going to write 4 places here. Our answer is going to be rounded to the nearest tenth, but I would wait until the end to round that. And then we're going to divide that by negative 48. And so now what we want to do is we want to split this into the plus minus. So let's do it this way. So for the plus, I'm going to go over here to the left side. So I have x equals, so again, let me point at this, make sure you're following what I'm saying. I have this plus minus here. So this is going to split into two expressions. One's going to be negative 200 plus this divided by negative 48. And the other one's going to be negative 200 minus this divided by negative 48. Okay, that's what I'm doing right now, splitting that up. So x equals negative 200 plus 875.789 divided by negative 48. And so I would add those together and divide by negative 48. And what you get is negative 14.1. Now remember, what we're finding is the time in seconds until you reach the ground. Well, that time can't be negative. That doesn't make any sense. So we don't need to worry about that answer. So let's look at the other one. Choose a different color here. So in this one, we're going to do the minus part. So we're going to do x equals negative 200 minus 875.7899. And then that's all divided by negative 48. And so negative 200 minus the 875 divided by negative 48. And what I end up with, rounded to the nearest tenth, is 22.4 seconds. And that's going to be our answer. All right. So hopefully wherever you're taking the test, they give you the quadratic formula. If not, that's something you need to memorize. There's actually a song that I used to sing to my students to help them memorize this. If you look it up online, you can find the song, but hopefully you don't have to memorize it. All right. So keep working hard. You're doing great. You will master the math.